Let the king of my heart be the mountain where I run, the fountain I'll drink from. Oh, he is my song. Let the king of my heart be the shadow where I hide, a ransom for my life. Oh, he is my song. You are good, good. Oh, you are good, good. Oh, you are good, good. Oh, yeah, you are good, good. Oh, let the king of my heart be the wind inside my sails, the anchor in the waves. Oh, he is my song. Let the king of my heart be the fire inside my veins, the echo in my days. Oh, he is my song. You are good, good. Oh, you're never gonna let me down. 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 No, you're never gonna let me down. 'Cause you are good, good. Oh, yes, you are good, good. Oh, yeah, you are good, good. Oh, you are good, good. Oh, you are good. Oh, yes, you are good, good, good. The night is holding on to me, God is holding on. When the night is holding on to me, God is holding on. You are good, good. Oh, yes, you are good, good. Oh, you are good, good. Oh, yes, you are good, you're good. Oh. How great the chasm that lay between us, how high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation, I turned to heaven and spoke your name, into the night. Even through the darkness, your loving kindness tore through the shadow of my soul. The work is finished, the end is written. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Who could imagine so great a mercy? What heart could fathom such boundless grace? The God of ages stepped down from glory to wear my sin and bear my shame. The cross has spoken, I am forgiven. The King of Kings calls me his own. Beautiful Savior, I'm yours forever. Jesus Christ, my living hope. And hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. And Jesus, yours is the victory. Whoa, hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. And hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Oh, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Oh God, you're my living hope. You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears are gone. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. my mother's womb, you have chosen me. Love has called my name. I've been born again into your family. Your blood flows through my veins. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. Whoa. My fears were drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stay dancing. I am a child of God. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears were drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stay dancing. I am a child of God. Yes, I sing. I am a child of God, full of faith, and I am a child of God. Here I stand. Yes, I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I sing, I'm no longer a slave to fear. Yes, I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God.
started dating through that. And yeah, Brian was already pretty integrated into the family at that point. So anyway, knew each other pretty well, started dating, and then yeah, got married. I guess about 2.5 years after that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
What a wonderful story. So, were you in some sort of ministry from very young, and is that something that has been a legacy in your families, or did you get onto that path at a younger age? Tell me that little story. Let me start with Faith, since she's still rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am a preacher's kid. So I did grow up in the church, pretty involved, just with my dad being a pastor. And then when I was in about middle school, my dad and brother started a church here in Bozeman. So kind of was a part of that church plant. And so yeah, anyway, been involved in church for as long as I can remember.
Sure, Brian. What's your story on that?
Yeah, I am not a preacher's kid. Sometimes I feel like it though. Mom and dad were really, really involved. Dad was a deacon. They were doing youth ministry. They've done nursery. Gosh, if there was a Sunday school class, I think they taught it at some point. So I grew up doing that sort of thing. But I really got involved myself in my own youth group around sophomore, junior year. They started a program at my church back in North Carolina for getting just those of us who had interest in it, ready to teach some. So they started showing us what it means to lead at what at that point was Sunday school or small groups and that sort of
Sure.
thing. When I came out here, since I had the experience, the church plant that Faith was a part of and her family had started, I told them what I'd been doing, and kind of showed the youth ministry from there. So it was good. It was really good.
So it sounds like youth ministry is kind of where your heart has been, where you two have met. For those of you that, or for those of us watching that maybe haven't met you yet, are you continuing in the youth ministry area, and what has drawn you to that? Did you see yourself as a youth, and you were like, man, I really needed some direction, or you like, these are my people, youth are my people? Like, are you both still in youth, I guess?
Yeah, no, we're not at the moment. I was honestly up until this semester with Venture Youth and now Venture Students. So I opted out just as Tide Rogers came in, and I've heard he's done an incredible job, and I actually kind of jealous that I don't get to work with him and everything. But I'm currently in school at MSU wrapping up a couple of degrees. So just the way my schedule worked out this semester, I couldn't commit to youth and do it justice. So this is my first semester not doing youth in a while, between our old church and with Venture. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you've touched many youth in the past, and they thank you for your service and time and love on them. So this is time to step back and do you, for sure. So
Appreciate that. Yeah.
in fact, I see you at Venture in different roles. What do they have you doing, and where is your heart at with all that?
Yeah, I have not helped with youth since we left our last church and joined Venture. I love the youth, but just didn't feel called to continue in that at the moment. So right now I lead a coffee team. I lead the 9 o'clock service coffee team. And just love getting there early, getting everything set up, and then just being able to serve people coffee every Sunday. So that's what I'm doing mainly there.
I was going to say, if anyone out there is in or at Venture Services in the morning, you'll get a chance to see Faith's smiling face behind the coffee table there. So very welcoming, yes. And Venture is a serving community, which is super awesome. So one more question. I heard you guys got a new pet. Is that something, or maybe you're just sitting a new pet? What's the story with that?
So we currently, we just got a puppy who's
chewing your glove.
Yeah, she's actually chewing on something she shouldn't be at the moment.
This is real life. This is
this is all live. We just looked over. We thought she had a little stuffed animal she has. It's a glove. But we won't call her over. That's not worth it. But we just got a puppy. We've had her about 3 weeks now. She is 3 months old. But she's just a little mutt. She's pretty cool. She kind of does what she wants. She's still learning manners and everything. We're trying to approach it from a gospel perspective. So anyone's welcome into the family. But now that she's here, we're trying to teach her what it means to have standards as part of the family.
Sure.
But she's
Constant
sweet. Yeah.
growth. Very
Yeah.
cool. Good. Well, this is awesome, and I'm glad that you were able to share a little bit, both of you, on who you are as people and where you've come from and where you're going. Brian and Faith are warriors and absolutely awesome people, and we're looking forward to picking their brain a little bit on the topic. And tonight we're going to be discussing service, which is my mom was, the backbone of service in our family, and that's where I got a lot of my what service means to me and all of that. And so I'm sure that's for everyone that's in a service role, has someone that has kind of led that charge for them and shown the way. But the true lens that we should see life as people in Christ serving is what Jesus said about it. And I'm going to kind of defer that question and that follow up to Brian and Faith to talk a little bit about that. But yeah, what's Jesus saying about service, and speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. I think, that's one of the most important questions we can ask as believers, is what is service? Just like a short tangent, I guess. I know a lot of my journey with God and believing who Jesus is has been largely informational. Like when I started to own the relationship, to take my own strides with it, to get off my parents' shirt tails in a way. A lot of that came largely from the informational side. So like really getting into theology, or what was the context of all the different books of the Bible, really getting into the language and that sort of thing, because I was a nerd and it's a miracle I'm married. But something I've seen is that the growth I've seen, at least for me, and you can probably speak better about it than I can in terms of how well I'm doing, is just what it means for all that knowledge to go somewhere. And what we've found, at least I've found largely, is that it all comes back to service. It's kind of like what Jesus does at, the night before he dies, right? Like the very last thing he does for his disciples is service. He calls them all together and wants to wash their feet. And that doesn't mean much, I feel like, to people now and today, because we all wear super nice shoes and maybe they get a little sweaty sometimes, but there's really nothing too gross going on. But back then, and if you've ever, I was on a mission trip in Southeast Asia a few years ago, and we just wore sandals for months. And we had our team leader. She wanted to just, she was awesome. Her name's Tara. She was wanting to emulate Christ in a lot of the same ways, but she decided to wash our feet. And that's where I really understood what it meant, because when you've been walking in the streets of Cambodia for 2 months and wearing nothing but sandals, you get pretty gross. There's a lot of mud, there's a lot of dirt, there's a lot of other stuff that I'm not sure quite what it was. But for her to take it upon herself to take our gross, muddy, bug bitten feet and to actually put her bare hands on them and wash them, and that's really where I got a sense of, wow, this is more than just Jesus, just spraying perfume on his disciples' feet or something that wasn't a huge thing. Service is, so far as Jesus acts it out, is always self-sacrificial. It's always costing him something, whether that be just something as simple as getting his own robes dirty, washing feet, or laying down his life for us. And that's, of course, getting
so he's kind of taking that traditional paradigm of, you get served if you're at the top, and everyone else is just kind of supporting you. And he flips that upside down, and he's washing feet. Like, I think that's so incredible, like you said. And in your experience with your group leader, it's humbling also to have your feet washed by someone that you perceive as a leader. And so it kind of puts you in our day and age, kind of puts you in a situation where you're like, it's unusual.
Totally.
So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think the disciples have like the most realistic reaction you can, which just points to the authenticity of scripture. But when Jesus tries to wash their feet, like, no, that's gross. This is below you. And he's like, no, let me do this. Let me show you what it's like to be a part of the kingdom, because we take your expectations and we subvert them. We take paradigms and we shift them, a lot like Jeremy was talking about this morning with, I think it was the mother of James and John in Matthew, where she comes forward and says, hey, I want my sons to hang out with you in heaven. I want them to be your second in command and everything. And he's like, you don't know what you're asking, because you're asking for essentially power, right? And that's how everyone in the world thinks, thinks it should work. But what Jesus tells them is that if you really want to serve me, if you really want to get on my good side, I guess, it means laying down your own needs for the sake of others. It's becoming a servant in a way that you really didn't expect. And that's something that's just changed our lives, especially. We've been married for 3 years, so we know it all, of course. But that's just something we've got the chance to experience firsthand. Just in how we serve each other, how we're able to see what each other's needs are and wants and love languages are, and to serve each other in those, especially without any kind of expectation of payback, I guess, if that makes sense. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And Faith, I want to kind of pitch something to you. Brian had, at the end of his, just a minute ago, he was talking about, he went over it quickly, but the selfless piece of service. And I think some people that aren't used to service look at it as a means to an end, or like a way to gain something. I'm gonna serve this person to hopefully get on their good side, or hopefully get this. But that's not what Christ is talking about. So how would you speak about like selfless service, and how do you know? Is there a litmus test of asking yourself how you know you're actually being selfless, unless you're just saying it? Those kind of questions I'd like to see what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I think the motivation behind service is so huge. Just being a preacher's kid, like growing up, there was just a lot of stuff I was told to do or expected to do that was serving others. And I hated it. I grew to resent it and that kind of thing. But just serving now, it comes just from a place of just really wanting to love on people. And just really wanting to be able to share God's love with them and just be a smiling face. And I think just looking at the motivation behind your serving is the kind of key point there.
So that's great. And I echo a lot of those, what you just said. I think that's you hit it on the head. That's great. Brian, if you were to speak directly to someone that's like, maybe hasn't done service, or still figuring out what it means to do selfless service, besides maybe something that they're doing out of the sake of thinking they need to do it, I guess, what would you say to them to maybe give them options, maybe give them a mindset, maybe to speak to their heart in that sense? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah. If I can kind of piggyback on what Faith said, I think a lot of it just comes from, why are we serving? We just got through with a series through Matthew, and Jeremy and I got to speak on that a lot together. But one of the things we kept coming back to, at least in his and my sermons, whatever the right grammar is there, is that the reason that we do things largely reveals who we are as people. So if going back to like our marriage, if I know Faith likes little foot rubs or that sort of thing, but I'm always doing it with the expectation that I'm going to get something back, then that's not love, right? That's like a mutual relationship. That's like employment or something weird, which, that can be a relationship, but I'd be hesitant to call it marriage, or a healthy one, at least. And kind of the same thing. Yeah, right. And that'd be kind of the same thing with God, right? If we're obedient to him, we have to understand that obedience is a byproduct. I think, like our obedience comes from our loving him, not the other way around. We don't love him because we're obedient. It's our understanding of what he's done for us. It's our understanding of what Jesus did for us in his life, in his ministry, in his death and resurrection. the puppy's eating things she shouldn't again. But it's all those things that come together that I think if we come to it with any kind of wrong intentions or wrong idea of how God works, then we risk putting ourselves in a really unhealthy place, either trying to manipulate God or being extremely embittered towards him when things don't go our way. It's like, well, God, I did all these things. I served the poor, I did the coffee, I did the parking team, and things aren't going my way in this part of my life. Well, he never made that promise. But going back to our marriage, if I'm just making dinner for Faith, I should do that at some point. If I'm just doing that because I love her with no expectation of her doing anything in return, but simply because I love her and I know she loves me, then I think that's where you start getting into the depths of the relationship. So that was a little bit of rambling. I apologize, but all that to say, I think true obedience and true service is obedience, and obedience, truly good obedience, comes from an understanding of what God's done and the love that comes from that.
And I like what you're saying, and I want to reiterate. And if it's a lot of the same things, I apologize. But we're called to be hands and feet of the body of Christ, to serve out of a willingness and a love selflessly, to love on other human beings as Christ loved on us. I guess I'm thinking of a situation where. And maybe you can share an example where you felt like in the depth of serving, you were like, I'm getting way more out. So I was a Peace Corps volunteer, and I served for 2 years with like no pay. And it was like a situation where I had to wrap my brain around what service was, come at it with a selfless heart, and reflect on what Christ is saying about service. And there's a lot of pieces to that journey that I was, I went kind of back and forth to, is this going to help my goals, or is this just love for the sake of just loving on people?
Right.
Faith, do you have a service story like that maybe, you kind of bounce back and forth in that realm?
Yeah, I mean, I think even, I guess, just what comes to mind most immediately is just even serving at Venture, just with coffee team, just the relationships and everything that have come out of that, and just getting to know other people that are serving and getting to just see so many people on Sunday mornings. It just is a huge blessing to me every week. I just start to look forward to it. And yeah, it's, getting up early in the morning, and there are definitely sacrifices involved with it, but just the joy that comes out of it is such a huge blessing.
Yeah. I think that's great. And getting so much love for the people around you, which echoes in your heart, and it just really gives gratitude. And is there any other passages you might bring into play, Brian, or things that pieces on your notes before we jump into the section where I'm going to have people click on joining the conversation, and we're going to kind of go into the next phase to this roundtable. But before we do that, just kind of the last piece, if there's anything you want to kind of tie up before we go there.
Yeah, I think the last thing I would say, and something I've really had to learn, is that when it comes to serving people, there's not a formula to it. Everyone's different. Everyone has unique situations. They're individuals with individual goings-ons in their lives and that sort of things
too.
Totally. Yeah. And I think that's what we see Jesus doing throughout his ministry, is he doesn't go out just doing certain things all the time. It's whenever he meets people, he meets them in ways that are unique as they are, even if they have the same problem. Sometimes if a guy is blind, he'll just command them to see, and other times he'll like hock a loogie in the mud and rub that in their eyes. And so maybe you shouldn't do that. I think that's more prescriptive than descriptive. But just the way that Jesus seems to work is that he meets people where they're at, and what that I think requires on our part, if we're yeah, emulating him is just getting to know people. Like that's a huge part of it. You can't just you can, and there's nothing wrong with just loving people from a distance and that sort of thing. But to make disciples, to really get in there and love people like Jesus did, it requires a personal angle as well. Getting in there and finding out who they are and what ways that you can speak to them as individuals. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. And that's amazing. And I want to kind of take this on to the next piece, which is, if you're watching this online, you can click on the button top right. It'll say join the conversation. It's a link, and hopefully within the next minute or two, we'll see you on that piece, and we can ask more questions about serving and what that looks like, what you can get out of that, versus just asking questions. And I'm looking forward to hearing a couple stories, and maybe I'll share more about my Peace Corps service and that piece. But yeah, getting plugged in somewhere and rolling up your sleeves and being the hands and feet of Christ selflessly is something that is underappreciated in a lot of areas of our society, and it's so valuable in many different levels. So yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea you were in a Peace Corps. That's awesome. That's awesome. Are you allowed to tell us where you served?
It's top secret.
Yeah, right.
No,
Yeah.
No, I was in Botswana. So it's like so South Africa, right above that's Botswana. I had to look it up on a map when we kind of got our location potential, because they would. So my wife and I applied together, and with that process, they have to kind of find a country that can handle 2 people. And neither of us spoke Setswana. So they had to find a country that could handle language. So if you're in the Peace Corps and you serve in South America, you need to have a background in Spanish pre getting sent. And so, yeah, we were in a tiny little village, about 2,000 people.
Wow.
In the Kalahari Desert in sub-Saharan Africa, in Botswana. Wow. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was pretty cool. It's a secular serving, but it's also an opportunity to serve at a really high level for an extended period of time, full immersion, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
When we lived in North Carolina, we lived in Boone, North Carolina.
Oh, I'm from North Carolina. Okay, I won't interrupt you. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
My wife's from North Carolina too. She's from Greensboro, so
nice.
my sister lives in Raleigh, so it's a little connection there.
Yeah.
But when we lived in Boone, they had the Samaritan's Purse there. They do the shoe boxes during Christmas time. Fantastic organization, and they do service like the Peace Corps, faith-based, drilling wells, agricultural conversations, small business leadership stuff, some really cool things. And that I think, and I have to do a little research, but you might be able to bring your family, which would be super cool for anybody interested. There's lots of ways to serve outside your local area. So yeah, and maybe Brian and Faith know of other ways to serve, just either within their local communities, or I can speak to the getting outside the country, but sometimes that costs money on your end, but totally worth it.
Totally. Yeah. We've done a little work with Greater Impact, just like 1 or 2 projects that was awesome. Yeah.
I was gonna say, there's so many cool nonprofits in town that are just amazing. I mean, Greater Impact is awesome, of course, kind of connected to Venture. And even kind of outside of that, we've worked with Reach quite a bit. They're a nonprofit that work with adults with disabilities. But they're just such amazing people that work there. And yeah, anyway, and Heart is another great nonprofit. But there's so many nonprofits in town, and yeah, even just being able to volunteer to go paint a room or something, that's needed, is just a really cool opportunity to meet some really amazing people with a heart for service, just in the community as well.
Yeah.
And I think.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I'm just saying, I think if you're in any community, if you want to serve, there's open arms everywhere. And you know, you might be like, I don't know if they need one more hand to paint one more wall. But it's like anytime you even offer yourself up there, like, yes, please, we'll put you to work. Well,
Totally.
it'll be awesome. And I think and you brought up greater impact for anyone watching that doesn't know its scope. They have an auto team. They have addiction recovery if you're hangups, habits, or hurts. They have financial coaching. They have a women's recovery home. Am I missing anything? I think I hit on the majority of them, but
I think that sounds right. Jeremy probably knows more than me or us.
yeah, welcome,
Sweet.
Jeremy.
Yeah, friendly neighborhood, Jeremy here. Hey, so something we're gonna do, if you are watching online on the platform right now, we're gonna kill the stream. So hit the join conversation button, either in the chat or online. You wanna and keep talking with us. But we are gonna kill the live stream. So join us here on Zoom, and we can continue.